Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling caused a storm on Twitter recently when she mocked a news article that claimed that people other than women could menstruate. The article in question was trying to be sympathetic to the transgender community, so rather than using the word women, it sidestepped and used the term people who menstruate instead. Rowling commented, "People who menstruate, I'm sure there used to be a word for those people. Someone help me out. Wimpin, wimpund, wimid." Now, this comment predictably enraged social justice warriors everywhere. They employed their now customary technique of shouting, haranguing, name-calling and bullying in an attempt to get Rowling to back down from her position and recant. They bizarrely insisted that men can menstruate too, and that biological sex is just an illusion. Now, to her credit, J.K. Rowling refused to be bullied by the online mob, and she continued to defend her position. The scientific, plain, blatant, obvious, truthful, factual factiness of the matter, that there are only two sexes, they're biological, they can't be changed, and you don't get to choose. Now, what was interesting to me about this episode was that Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson and Rupert Grint, the stars of the Harry Potter movies, felt compelled to join the condemnation of J.K. Rowling. Radcliffe made a statement saying transgender women are women. Watson said trans people are who they say they are. And Grint said, "I echo the sentiments of my peers. Trans women are women, trans men are men." Some of the other stars from the movies also joined the chorus to say the same thing, that if a man puts on a dress and says he's a woman, then that's what he is. Which is, of course, patently absurd. There are two sexes, there are male and female, it's hardwired into your genetic code, you can't change it. Putting on a dress or wearing dungarees doesn't magically transform one into the other. And this isn't just a battle of opinions either. We're talking about irrefutable, empirically verifiable, biological fact, one of the most fundamental realities of our existence. So how did we get to a position where scores of people are lining up to deny science, reason and logic to say things that are patently false and absurd? Well, it seems clear that peer pressure is at work here, the forces of social conformity. These people are saying this not because it's true, but because it's on trend. Because within Hollywood and liberal elite culture today, it's considered the right-on stance to take. They're saying these things to conform to their social circle, to conform to the herd mentality around them, to virtue signal to Hollywood. And there's a compelling reason for them to virtue signal to Hollywood like this, because if they don't conform to the liberal elite culture, they probably don't get to work there ever again. But it got me thinking over the weekend. Is there any limit to what a need for social conformity can make people say and do? Just how strong is this power? If Hollywood culture began saying that this is black and this is white, could the forces of social conformity make these actors agree? If Hollywood culture began saying that men are leprechauns and women are ghosts, could the forces of social conformity make these people say so? It actually put me in mind of the fairy tale of the Emperor's New Clothes. I'm sure everybody knows that story. So in that story, the Emperor is parading down the street naked, but such is the need to conform to the crowd that everyone in that crowd claims that they can see him wearing something. There's just this one child who pipes up at the end and points out the obvious. And I think that fairy tale shows just how willing people are to deceive themselves if it means they get to conform to the crowd and feel a sense of belonging and fellowship. As I was thinking more about this power of social conformity, I remembered a social experiment that I saw years ago. I'm going to play the whole clip right now. It's about 3.5 minutes long. It may cause copyright issues, this video, so we'll just see how it goes. YouTube may just take this video down anyway, to be honest, because it's about trans issues, and they're not too keen on trans videos that don't toe the party line. So there's a couple of reasons why this video might not survive. I don't know, we'll see. Anyway, here's the clip. It's an experiment that shows the strength of social conformity.
To answer that question, we set up a hidden camera experiment to see if this woman would stand up at the sound of this tone, simply because everyone else is. You might be thinking you'd never go along with this. Or would you? After just 3 beeps, and without knowing why she's doing it, this woman is now conforming perfectly to the group. But what happens if we take the group away?
Elaine, please.
Okay, now she's alone. The crowd is gone and nobody is watching her, except our hidden cameras. What do you think she'll do? She's now conforming to the rules of the group without them even being there. Now, watch what happens when we introduce another outsider who doesn't know the rules.
For a noon appointment.
Have a seat and they'll be out in just a couple minutes.
Great,
Thanks so much.
Why was it?
Everybody was doing it, so I thought I was supposed to.
Think she'll teach the new guy what to do? We kept the cameras rolling as more unsuspecting patients arrived. And slowly but surely, what began as a random rule for this woman has now become the social norm for everyone in this waiting room. Here to explain what's going on in their brains is Jonah Berger of the University of Pennsylvania.
This sort of internalized form of herd behavior is part of what we call social learning. Starting at a very early age, when we see members of our group perform a task, our brains literally reward us for following in their footsteps.
When I saw everybody stand up, I felt like I needed to join them. Otherwise, I'm like excluded. Once I decided to go with it, then I felt much more comfortable.
Conformity is how we become socialized, but it can also cause us to develop bad habits or repeat past wrongs.
And it's why even this rebel, who wasn't standing for any of this nonsense, eventually joined the ranks. And the only thing more shocking than seeing how easily conformity affects the way you act is that similar forces are subconsciously shaping the way you think right now.
I think it's clear that social conformity is what has caused these actors to say these completely absurd things. Such is the need to conform to the culture of the day that they're willing to contradict all reason, science, fact, biology and logic to say things that are simply not true. They're just trying to fit in. It got me thinking about Isaiah 5:20 where it says, "What sorrow for those who say that evil is good and good is evil, that dark is light and light is dark, that bitter is sweet and sweet is bitter." The Bible talks here about people who completely invert reality. And we can see that the forces of social conformity are so strong, they can make people do this. They can make people completely invert reality. They can make people say that men are women and women are men, and that emperors without clothes do have clothes. That's the strength of social conformity. We don't want to be excluded, so we'll deceive ourselves to fit in. So I guess this video is just to say to be aware of this force. Analyze whether the things you're saying are really true or whether you're just deceiving yourself to fit in with your culture around you. And it's also to say to be brave enough to stand up for the facts, for the truth. Be like that kid in The Emperor's New Clothes who was willing to stand out from the crowd and say the obvious. That dude's naked, men are men, and women are women.